welcome everyone to the fourth episode of Middle East Tech Voice, hosted in partnership with Schneider Electric. In today's session, we'll talk about smart water management and climate change. Water is a major global issue, with 25% of the world population living in areas of extremely high water stress. Over 2 billion people lacking access to safe water sanitation, and over $75 to $170 billion alone estimated to be required by 2030 to meet SDG targets 6.1 and 6.2, which talk about global access to safe and affordable drinking water and sanitation. In this context, there are multiple initiatives going on to take back control. We see an expansion of desalination, we see reduction in water losses up to 5 to 10% at the end, with initiatives such as smart meters, early detection, and so forth. We see the increasing in treatment and reuse of treated sewage effluents and increasing use of it, promotion of water conservation measures at the household, and in some cases, even the rethinking of some of the sector strategies that consume water. For example, Saudi Arabia recently achieved a 50% water reduction by rethinking the way it produces fodder for its agriculture. Going forward, there's a need for an integrated approach that talks about the supply infrastructure, the demand management, and all the enablers around it to do so. And also a need for national agendas and increased private sector participation to help all of us to drive this forward. My name is Bruno Souza. I'm a partner with Oliver Wyman, focusing the water sector in the Middle East, supporting government entities and the private sector in addressing these issues. I would like now to introduce you to our speakers for this session, each of them a leader in their field. I'll start with His Excellency, Dr. Rashid Alim, the chairman of SIWA. Dr. Rashid Alim is ranked third among the 25 most influential CEOs in DGC. He's a passionate environmentalist and writer, having authored several books, including his newest book, The SIWA Way, which showcases 15 principles, providing a roadmap for success both on an organizational and personal view. We also have Fadi Jouez, the managing director for Matito, a global water expert with over 35 years experience, which has been leading the business expansion in the Middle East and Southeast Asia, and is also director of IDA, the International Desalination Association. Thirdly, we have Mr. Anas Kassim, managing director of Stantec's business in the Middle East region, focused on strategy, delivery, and performance. He has over 30 years experience in the water sector, ranging from project to program management, but also geographic leadership roles. Finally, we have Ahmed Kashan, the president for the Gulf countries for Schneider Electric. He has over 20 years experience at Schneider Electric and leads the business in the GCC. Hence, without further ado, we'll start now the discussion with our honorable speakers. We'll start by talking about what are the challenges that we see in terms of water sustainability and so forth. Secondly, we'll talk more about initiatives that can be done. And further, we'll summarize with what can be kind of the future outlook to address this. So the first question will be for His Excellency, Dr. Rashid Alim. What is Your Excellency's view in terms of the key water challenges and developments in the region?
Well, first of all, for having me in the program, and thanks to Forbes for this great fourth edition. We're meeting, but this time, unfortunately, it is virtual because of the COVID-19 and the consequences this pandemic has created in the globe and is still going to create more and more. So we're living at the crossroads. So it's not only the water challenges, but I think we've got more challenges to deal with, including the water. When we speak about water, I would love to start by giving a vote of thanks to the United Nations SDGs office for coming up with the 17 global goals, sustainable global goals, back in September of 2015. And a big thank you to them for including the water as one of the main goals. It sits on a number 6, occupy the number 6 on their list. To me, water is life. And when you speak about life, you speak about the good, the bad, the ugly together. So the water comes with it. When we have too much water flooding, it is too bad. People get killed. People, get lost. When we have too little, people die because of thirst. Irrigation system die, everything dies. So we need to balance here. And I guess it's not only when we speak about the water, we have to speak about the global warming also too. Because to me, global warming is a fact, is not a fiction. And we have seen the global warming, the result. For the last 2 years, we have recorded the highest temperature ever on the Earth surface. So it means that there is something really seriously happening. So when you have warm up and we have the surface of the Earth is warming up, it means that this is a big alarm for the thought leaders in the water system to look inward, not outward. And that is the biggest challenge. We've been focusing outside our boundaries, if you would, in a way. But we need to look inside the efficiency, how to manage the water, wherever we have the resources. What are we doing, the conservation itself? How really could communicate the message to the next generation that the water is so scarce at the global level, not only here, by the way. A lot of people say that the Gulf region, we are one of the regions. We have seen it 2 years back. I was in London, then I touring Europe for a business. And then how in UK, for example, they came up 2 years back with tough during the summertime because they have water scarcity. And they said, now you cannot irrigate your garden outside. You cannot wash your car outside. If you do so, there's a big heavy penalty. 2 days later, I moved to Belgium and I noticed the same thing. They had also water scarcity. And they say, this summer is so tough, the temperature is so high. And if you come up with, again, irrigating or doing any irrigation gardening, then you're breaking the law. We need to find a solution. We had it for more than 4 years back in California, one of the advanced technologies in the world. Still, they could not, deal with it. People were rational. For 2 to 3 hours maximum per day, they will have the tap will open to them. You exceed again, you get a penalty. So we are living in a very serious world here. What we need to sit together. We need to bring the thought leader, and thanks for bringing us together here today, because it's not about the usage of the water. What do we do with the rest? And this is one of the things. Again, when you go deep inside the Sustainable Development Goal number 6 of United Nations, it says water and the sanitation program. So the sanitation is very important. And it is, even in the advanced economy, like let's say in this beautiful country here, we don't have very strong, probably Fadi will agree with me here later on, that how much we're doing for the effluent and the sewage treatment and other. Not very much research. And for that reason, I even lately have, if you allow me, I've written a book. This is the book. It talks about the innovation and the creativity we need, especially in the water, because really it is going so scarce and it's giving an alarming to us. But still, if you ask your kid at home where the water comes from, Dad, from the tap. So they still take things for granted. We need to, I think one of the top challenge here is to reprogram our thinking process, reprogram the next generation thinking toward the water, how important the water is. You see the point? And it is very true. I was, for example, last week with my family dining in one of the beautiful restaurants in Dubai. And they brought, beautiful water imported from outside. We had, and there was, just like any banquet, there was a water lift on the glass. So on the bottle, sorry. Then I said to my wife, let me ask this gentleman, what they're gonna do with this water? So I said, please, can you come in? So he came in. I said, what is the plan of the restaurant here? If I leave this water, where does it go? He said, sir, we really throw it because hygienic, blah, 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 100 of reasons. And when I looked at the bill, I said, okay. I told my wife, look at this bill. It's about 50 dirham plus the bottle, right? But to me, it's not the money. Okay, bro, we are offering, we can afford it because we went to that, hotel. But I said, it really bothers me, this quantity of water and how much time it took to process, because I came from the same industry, to be thrown outside. So I decided to pick up the bottle and take it with me. My wife said, oh, come on, we're living in this 7-star hotel and you want to take the water? I said, yes, I don't feel ashamed to do so because I want to teach my daughter, she's with me, the importance of the water. It's not about the money. She knows that her dad can afford, that her mom can afford to come to this beautiful big hotel. But this bottle of water costing this much. And the water, you hear the man, he said, we'll just, dump it to the drain. It's not fair. So changing the behavioral practice, I think this is one of the top challenge to me. Second, misleading units. When you, for example, you compare me to any city, to city A in the world, and I am city Sharjah, and you see, the non-revenue water, the unseen water in city A is 30%, or it's 5%, and yours is 20%, so they scare you with this number, and then you get scared. They say, you know what? Yeah, true. How come? But that's reality, not true. Because there's one of the important factors. No, it's the pressure in the pipeline. How much is pressure? Is it 5 bar, 1 bar, and yours 10? So by all means, your losses will be more than them because your pressure in your pipeline is higher. So using a percentage also and the way to quantify the losses of the water, I don't think we have really very genuine metrics in general. What we have a percentage, and percentage probably with the financial figures it works, but not with something alive. You cannot put a percentage of your life if you would in a way. So when we say water is alive, means it's alive. We have to treat it as alive. The good side of it, how to to maintain it. It's just like when you want to have a good life, you keep going for exercise, you go for a gym. So the same thing, how to maintain this beautiful river we have, or the water, or the underground, is important. Right. So I think it just for me is a wake-up call to all Gulf region. We are all sucking the water for desalination, and we're building bigger and bigger desalination plant across the Gulf. But we're pumping the brine water back to the same. I call it a lake. It's not a Gulf anymore, because we don't have the fresh water which used to come by nature from Iraq and from Turkey earlier. It is so scarce also from their side. So we don't have very much fresh water. And earlier, by the mean of gravities, will come all the way to us and will mix with our water. Now, what we have a huge lake called the Gulf Lake. We all suck the water and we dump the brine higher temperature and with so much impurities in it. So years to come, we will be living in a real salt lake. It's not a Gulf. So we need a wake-up call here. We need to do something. How to harvest. And my list goes on and on, like harvesting the rainwater and this, but I really want to from other leaders. Pleasure, thank you.
I think there's a lot to be done in terms of how we manage and oversee network losses. Like some countries and some entities do it one way or the other, so it's very hard to compare, to be honest. Now, thanks for that, and also to kind of not talking about the region, but also kind of giving us a bit of the global aspects of water and what's happening there. I would like now to talk and to hear from Ahmed what you see as some of the challenges that we see at the global level for water, tagging a bit along where His Excellency Dr. Rashid left it about, right?
Look, thank you, Bruno, and thank you for the esteemed members in this panel. I think it's quite important to have this panel around an important topic as water. I have less to add after what Dr. Rashid extremely mentioned and spectacularly mentioned. I think he said it all. If I can just add a few points to that, I think we need to focus on the rapid growth of water consumption. And this is, as Dr. Rashid said, is growing at 2.5% at global level. When you see the population is only at 1%, which means that we are growing the consumption almost twice the speed of the population. This means that we are consuming more for things that are not really needed. And here I would like to recall the 22nd of August of this year that marks the day, very important day, by the way, which is the Earth Overshooting Day. And on that day, it means that the humanity has exhausted and consumed the nature's budget of the year. I mean, what the Earth can produce in 1 year of natural resources have been consumed by mid-August. This means that we are running till year end on what's so-called ecological deficit. This is not good by all means. This is not good for us. This is not good for the next generations. It's not good for our children and our children's children. And here we have, as Dr. Rashid said, I think we have to focus on a serious call for action. We do this while 20% of the world population still do not have good access for safe and clean water. So which means that 80% are like over-consuming, 20% do not have good access to water, and this is a dilemma. My second point as a challenge globally wise is the urbanization. We see today urbanization is going, progressing like every here and there. And the point that with the urbanization, unfortunately, it's happening in places that are not that rich in the water, let's say natural resources. I think in Gulf is one example. It's not only that, it's not the only example, but it's one example that it's attracting a lot of dwellers, a lot of people to come in this region, and they move to this region. Urbanization is happening, economic development is happening, but it's not rich in water resources. And that's creating pressure on utilities, on governments to make available good water supplies, and it's a kind of a challenge, a second challenge. The third challenge, we see cities nowadays competing on sustainability in general. In the past, cities were competing to attract investors and attract people to come to stay and operate in based on economic things, right? Like financial easing, these kind of regulations, rules, and this. Now cities are competing more and more in sustainability. People would like to move to places that provide clean energy, clean water, and clean air. The last challenge that we see as well on the global basis is the climate changes. And I think this is like the global warming that is really harming the environment, harming the planet. We see more natural disasters happening. We see more droughts happening. And of course, this is creating pressure on the water sector as global challenges.
Thank you very much, Hamid. I think with that, it would be good now that we kind of set the stage about what are the challenges that we face in water, and there are actually quite a lot, and not everybody understands the urgency of addressing them, and I think we all do. Talking about some of the initiatives, I would like to ask Anas, how do you see the impact that an efficient water management strategy can have to address climate change, and how is kind of technology playing a vital role to address this?
Well, thank you, Bruno. And, I'm going to start by repeating what Dr. Rashida said. Water is life, and it resounds soundly with all of us. And I think in order to make that water available for life, it requires a lot of energy. And that energy adds to the carbon footprint and impacts the climate change. And the climate change in return makes water more scarce and more valuable. So it's a vicious cycle. And for us, we have to do what we can to reduce the footprint of water use and reduce the demand. And if you look at water to make it available for life, it starts with water desalination, then distribution, then collection system, then the wastewater treatment, then recycled water distribution and treatment and use. And there are many ways that technology can play a part in reducing the footprint of water and the carbon impact and increase the efficiency of those systems that I have mentioned. And it's not just being smart technology, but also it requires smart policies and smart management techniques, because those two things, the policies and the management techniques, empower technology, prioritize the technology that has the highest impact, and will create the best value for use. And I'll give you a few examples. When we talk about desalinating the water, there are many ways that technology has been used to desalinate the water. Mainly there are thermal, and that's commonly used, and membrane, electrical, chemical, and hybrids. And the thermal happens to consume 2 or 3 times the energy of a similar membrane, such as reverse osmosis technology. And if we push technology, if we institutionalize that we want our desalination to be more energy efficient, we can drive technology, we can drive nanofiltration and improve on reverse osmosis, or even improve on the thermal distillation process to reduce the energy that is required to distill the water. So we could save 50 to 60% of energy used by moving to a different way of distilling the water. On the water distribution, this takes also lots of energy through improving the efficiency of the pumps and minimizing leakage. And just to give you an example, that any typical city, and regardless of how you calculate percentages, would lose 10 to 20% of its water through leakage. And if you save, for example, if you take a city such as Abu Dhabi and you save for every 1% of leakage you save, you could save approximately 1 to 1.2 million gallons per year. And if you translate that to money, it's approximately 50 million dirhams per year. So imagine if you could save 110% of leakage, of that leakage, you could save 500 million a year. Therefore, if we drive smart technologies to minimize the leakage, improve the efficiency of the pumping systems, not only we save on the energy required, but also we have more financial savings. And it's not just about improving the way we distill the water and transfer it and use it. It's about raising the awareness, referring back to what Dr. Rashid has said, but is that we have to increase the awareness of the users and not only the people, because water is used for agriculture and used for homes. So raising the awareness is a key element in reducing the footprint of water. And that could be done through smart technologies nowadays by installing smart meters that let people know how much they're actually using, by installing sensors in agricultural setups where the water is dispensed just enough, just in time and just enough, by looking at parameters that required for agriculture, such as the temperature, the soil moisture, and the other weather requirements. And I believe that there's a strong relationship between awareness and technology, policies and technologies, and we can talk about that later on in the other sections of this discussion as we move along, Bruno.
Thank you, Hannes. I would like actually to pick on two of the points you highlighted and pass some questions to the other speakers. So the first one will be on desalination. We'd like to hear from Fadi, and then the second one on smart water management from Hamad. So Fadi, in your perspective, what are kind of the wastewater treatment and desalination landscape that you see in the region, and what type of new project you see Matito getting involved that are pushing the boundaries on this topic?
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Forbes, again, and I'm glad and pleased to be with you, gentlemen, on this panel for a very interesting topic that's very close to my heart. I've been living with it for 35 years, and our company has been living in it for 63 years. You mentioned sewage, and Dr. Rashid mentioned sewage. Being in the region, this is something that we've seen and we've worked on. But first, I want to start by giving a bit of a bright point. Too many gloomy issues were said. I think we're doing well. I think in this part of the world, in the GCC, we've been doing very well. We've done a lot of moves towards sustainability, towards energy saving, towards solar use for desal, towards changing the technologies, predominantly from the capital intensive and power intensive distillation to more of reverse osmosis, towards recycling, treating the sewage recycling. I think we've done very, very well. And of course, there's a lot more to do. We also worked a lot on awareness. People need to know, of course, I agree with Dr. Rashid. Awareness is very important, and all of us should know what's the meaning of that water. I also have issues at the restaurants when I go, and I always demand water produced in the UAE to be sitting on my table. I don't want anybody to fly by plane a bottle of water and increase the carbon footprint just for me to drink a bottle of water to charge me 50 dirhams. I think we do excellent water in the UAE with the right minerals, and there's no problem. So coming back a bit down on the details, we've been doing well on the treatment of the sewage. I guess the GCC are one of the highest countries in treating its sewage to a level that is safe to be disposed to the environment. And then we move to phase 2, which is moving it further and treating the tertiary sewage to reuse it for irrigation. And we've been doing very well in that. I guess now is the time to move more aggressively into the third phase, which is reusing that water, this ignored wealth, as we call it in the International Association. Water reuse, by the way, that's our name. So water reuse is gold. I've been on the board for the last 18 years. Matito was a founding member of the International Association. And this is one of the platforms we use for awareness of people. I invite everybody to join us when we go in our World Congress or our other congresses. Anyway, we're moving to phase 3, which is treating the water all the way to be reused, at least for industrial application. Technically, we can do it. I can make sewage taste like this bottle of water, the glass of water. That's no problem. The problem is how to do it financially effectively, because, and I'm sure Dr. Relim faces it, the users of this, the industrial users of this treated effluent are not in the same place as where the sewage treatment plant is being treated. So to deliver the water, you need to make pipes. To make pipes, you need pumps. To make pumps, you want money. So the whole thing gets a bit complicated and needs a holistic approach. And I guess UAE is doing a lot about it to bring closer, because historically municipalities manage the sewage and water departments manage the water. So you need to get this close niche together to make it work. So on the recycling, we've been doing a lot. We just completed a big sewage refurbishment and upgrade in Sharjah. I used to walk around the Buhaira in Sharjah, and the smell of the waste the water was very bad. Now you don't have a smell, just because we've increased the capacity another 100,000 and it's working perfectly. We've been doing a lot of projects on the desal arena and working very closely with the users to reduce the operation maintenance costs. And there we talked to Schneider a lot, or artificial intelligence, how to reduce the energy while we're operating and maintaining the plants to make it more efficient. You pay more at the capex to reduce tremendously the opex, and reputable companies, sustainable companies, progressive companies do invest a bit more upfront so that they save down the line for this important asset that we have, which is water. You see, we don't have rivers in the GCC. There's only the sea, regretfully, Dr. Lim. We have no other place except that. So what we do, we try to the best of our ability to reduce the power by using efficient pumps, by also mixing it and having solar energy. We just completed a project in Neom, in Saudi Arabia, city of Neom, and a super fast track where we built a 4 mega solar power plant. It's beautiful. It takes about 40% of the power is operated by solar. We use smart systems as well to reduce the efficiency. So on these two fronts, we've been working very hard. Reducing demand, obviously, will always be an issue. Awareness is the most important. Yes, we need to reduce the non-revenue water and the leakages 20%. And I agree with Dr. Rashid here as well. The higher the pressure you put, the more the leaks you have. So it's not a percentage in itself. It's just striving daily to reduce that percentage, whether it's 20 or 10 or 5 or 3, and make sure you have the right return on investment. Sometimes you pay a fortune to reduce 1% when you get to the limit. So we have to be careful there. I guess that's in general what I have to say to you, Bruno, on that.
Thanks, Fadi. And now, Ahmed, if we take more an angle of smart water management and digitization, what do you feel are kind of the benefits that the different stakeholders across the sector, like the utilities, the governments, the consumers, they can extract from the deployment of smart water technologies?
Look, I think Fadi touched point to this aspect of digitization. Digitization is the key word to get to this optimization and efficiency. And by deploying all the digital solutions, digitization, we always say that it brings us to places that we have never thought of in terms of collateral benefits and things that we can explore and discover together. If we take the water sector and how digitization can benefit this sector, I think it starts by reducing the leakage and the losses, as Dr. Rashid and Mr. Anas mentioned. By applying the digital solution, the artificial intelligence, you can easily generate predictive analytics. And when you generate this predictive analytics, it will show the abnormalities in the asset performance. And here you can detect that something is going wrong with the asset. This asset can be the pump, motor, tank, pipe, or whatsoever, which calls for a predictive and preventive kind of maintenance before the issue happens, And this is kind of a very important thing that was not there in the past with our digitization. And suppose that the issue has happened. Now, this asset, this device will send signals to the site operator telling him that the issue occurred in this pump on that time, and this is the reason of that. And then the site operator will take much less time to get into the faulty site and detect the issue and fix it, which means less losses, less leakages. This is quite important. If we move to the second point, is about energy efficiency. Energy is a key component, key factor in the water generation, the water industry, like the pump station, all the distribution system. So once you apply digitization, you will be able to reduce and save energy. Less energy means less carbon emission. Less carbon emission means more sustainable ecosystem. And this is, again, a very important thing. The last point is about process optimization and energy and I can say operational efficiency. And by doing digitization, you will be able to manage remotely different sites. You don't have to have your people, your site operators present at all sites at the same time. You can just digitize the sites, you collect the data, you manage and monitor from one control center, and this is savings. You can also equip the site operators with the right analytics, with the right digital tools that can let them work instead of being just site operators and operating the process, while they can turn to be performance managers. They can detect inefficiency pockets that they need to tackle, and hence they optimize the operation. Another good point that we witness is like augmented reality. You don't have to get your people close to hazardous sites. In water industry, it's full of like medium voltage motor, medium voltage speed drives and things like that. If a fault happens, by augmented reality devices, the operator can just stay remote out or away from the faulty device, and he can detect, he can tell him exactly where the fault happens. And this means we don't expose our teams to troubles. The last point of this is the kind of the digital twin. Digital twin is a kind of a virtual proxy. You have in your laptop, in your handheld device, a kind of digital representation, digital proxy of the water plant that you have. And then you can do better understanding, better testing, and better simulation that you are not able to do in reality, because you cannot go and change the speed of the motor, the level of the tank, the pressure of the pipe. You cannot do this in reality, but you can do this kind of simulation over the virtual twin or the digital twin. And by this, you can embark on the best operational scenario that will lead to operational efficiency and process optimization.
Thank you very much, Hamad. And you see any kind of also benefits for consumers at the end?
Maybe Dr. Rashid will be the best one saying this, but I think, yes, for sure, like monitoring the consumption, monitoring the usage. And I think we are in Dubai here privileged to get this kind of early alert. When you see like consumption is going up, you get like many mails and messages and say, yeah, guys, I mean, watch out, there's something going on. Probably it's kind of leakage. Yes, for consumption, for consumers, it carries all the benefits of monitoring the consumption and intervening if there is an issue happening.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Hamad. I think that kind of connects well to my next question. His Excellency Dr. Rashid, can you tell us a bit more about what initiatives is SEWA pursuing or planning to launch to improve water management, I don't know, on the supply infrastructure, the demand management, enablers? What's kind of in your portfolio now and coming along that you can share with us?
Thank you, Bruno, for the question again. We had 7 strategies, and I think they will be carrying those strategies along the way. When I was appointed almost 6 years back, I came up with the 7 strategies for the water management. What is one of them, and to me, was most important, because information is the new oil, as they say. So I requested all the devices, all the pumps to be recalibrated to make sure that every single drop is counted rightly. And we really discovered so many things. We discovered meter, they were frozen, meter, they were 20 years old, they were never been checked, they never been approved. So that really has given us a good start by seeing where do we stand in reality, how much water is produced, how much water is lost. So that has given us totally different, picture about the future. That was the first. The second to me was the behavioral, where we start to rewire and reprogram the people thinking toward this important, precious things called water. And we did, I have created a fully-fledged department called the Department of Conservation. We want to really to how to spread the message of conservation and the awareness through this department. So that was the second. The third, we use the physically devices. Sometimes people will not listen what to do. So you try to do from the technical or the mechanical or the engineering side of it. We went to the public houses like governments, mosques, churches, temples, and other, And we did invest from our own pocket to install the source devices which control the water flow. And we have seen the beauty of it, really has resulted, and we just give it a figure for more than 200 million gallons were saved this year itself. So it's a huge saving, right? The third, or the fourth, I should say, is fighting the illegal. It's unfortunate. It's not about tempering of the electricity, electrical meters, but we have found illegal, people doing, especially in the industrial area, digging for looking for water from the ground without even taking the permission, and they did so much damage to the earth and to the environment. So that was one of the strategies I started doing when I was appointed. The fifth was the eco-imagination principle, which it came by GE a long time back in 2012, and we did implement the same thing. So any pump or any project I want to bring to the water management, it should really be environmental friendly, plus the balances the social and the profitability or the commercial side of the organization. We don't want to really bring machine which will be really overpricing the people or adding more electricity usage on the system. So it was an eco-imagination principle we did use. The sixth strategy was actually the retrofitting program for the old pumps, bringing new ones, and bringing the energy efficiency devices, right? So that was one of the strategies. The seventh one, which is very important, and I do 100% agree with Mr. Ahmed about the importance of the smart meters. And it is a year and a half now when I decided to declare Kalba is one of the main cities in Sharjah, as a smart Kalba. And I call it smart Kalba because I decided at one go to replace all the meters, electricity and water. 3-4 companies work at the same time to change them to smart meters. And you won't believe the amount of leakage we discovered, the amount of engineering were needed, because we have seen places where the meter was the wrong size meter, and the other places the meter was really oversized. So we discovered so many beautiful things here, part of this process. And the beauty that the consumer gets the message right away, which Ahmed emphasizes. It is true. It is not a fiction, it is a fact. So as soon as his consumption goes beyond the normal, he gets an SMS alarming. So the people feel good, you know what, thank you. And so many messages came back to us, thanking us for this, because they discovered maybe a leak inside the home or outside, or there were excess water usage, or one of the tab at the garden was open and they didn't notice. So they get an alarm, instant alarm right away. So people feel good that they're, and I would call this engagement with the society. So we found one of the beautiful things about one of the good outcome of this smart meter is not that, give you per liter, how much really each one has consumed, or the SMS. I find it is more engaging, and anything make engagement means there's a commitment. So people, when they feel that they receive the message, they get engaged with us more, and they start even to tell us about the leakage they see outside. You know what, we found a leak here, or see that. So that's the beauty of it. Yeah. So there's about 7 strategies, if you would, in a way.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Rashid. And now talk a bit about the future, perhaps to you, Fadi. Can you tell us more about some of the emerging technologies that Matito is deploying, and what you think can be like the impact of it to address water issues, but also climate change? I don't know. We talked about renewable power, desalination, but perhaps there's others you can share with us.
Thank you. Well, I mean, innovation is key for the sustainability that we're trying to achieve, for the reduction of cost, for reducing the impact of environment, for reducing the power. And for us in Matito, innovation occurs at every level. It occurs financially, technically, digital-wise, dealing with clients, looking at problems and resolving it. So it's a total holistic approach of innovation that we use. One major core strength that we have, and I urge everyone that works in this business to have their own internal engineering process strength, so that we do things ourselves. Because when you do things yourself, you trust what you're doing, and you can introduce new innovative ideas. One of example is Schneider, the gentleman sitting there. We have our own engineering in terms of electrical instrumentation, control, computerization, digitization. We have them in-house. So when we talk with people like Schneider, we understand their language, and we know the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we can choose the best for the best application. I'll give you an example about the new things, innovative. We're building now the first independent sewage treatment plant in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, financed by us, led by us. We have some partners with us, a sewage treatment plant. And while we were looking at the electrical part of it, instrumentation, control, digitization, we were discussing with Schneider and others, and we realized that if we invest a bit more into new technologies like the smart meters, like the smart taps for the operational maintenance, we could save a lot of money on the operational maintenance later on. So we, as the APC, went to the investors and told them, listen, these are the specifications, but if you add a little bit more, you can save a lot more. And we work together. And because of our engineering, our capability, because you have a bank to convince as well. Like I said, holistic approach. You have a bank financing as well. If he doesn't know this technology, he'll say, no, I don't want to touch it. And of course, the same thing with our colleagues at the consultancy level. With Stantec, we talk, we discuss, we analyze, we convince each other. So innovation comes in every aspect, in every corner of the business you're doing, even in the way companies are structured. We innovate because we're present locally. We strive, local presence, global know-how. That's our motto. We strive to be locally, to understand the needs of each country that you work in. Like Dr. Ali mentioned, exactly. You don't treat Sharjah like New York City, or you don't treat Jordan like Egypt. Each country has its own needs, its own requirement. So we're working very hard on the desalination front. We're building the first ever 3 barges, desalination barges, huge, 50,000 cubic meter per day each, with its own power generation. And we introduced for the first time in the whole Middle East a new integrated ultrafiltration system that has never been used in this part of the world. It's integrated, it's automatically cleans itself. This enables us to clean the water more, so that we can have more flux, so that we reduce the capacity, reduce the pumping. We're introducing high innovative ideas in the digitalization on these barges as well, because you're like a ship. It's a total. So that's another thing that we're doing that includes a lot of innovation in it. Like I mentioned on the NEOM project, we introduced solar energy. We made it in a way that in the daytime, of course, the solar power is higher, so the consumption is lower of power, and we were able to reduce the consumption, total consumption of the plant, to by far lower kilowatt hour per cubic meter than ever had been done. So a lot of innovation, a lot of directions. We now are trying very hard to work with our stakeholders, end users, consultants, to focus on reuse. Reuse is extremely important in our part of the world. We must find ways to reuse the waste that we treat. Initially, we were using it for irrigation, but now population increase, you have more treated effluent than you can use. You're dumping it back to the sea. You can treat it more and reuse it for district cooling, reuse it for fountains, reuse it for any production that it doesn't touch a human being, because we're still a bit early for that to drink straight from the waste. So we're doing a lot of work on that front, and innovations and ideas, how to find users, delivers and users, so that we match them together. I can talk for 3 days like this, but I guess I'm
Thanks, Fadi. I admire your enthusiasm, and I think you made kind of a very nice summary around it. I think with that, I'll pass to Anas and ask you, like, how do you see like policies and regulations further enabling the implementation of these technologies, or perhaps the other way around, right? We do the policies and then technology will follow. Like, for example, Fadi was talking about solar desalination or renewable power desalination, but globally, there's only 1% of installed capacity that's renewable based, right?
No, that's true.
I'd like to hear from you on this matter.
Well, I'm passionate about this point, actually, is that technology is changing so rapidly. The needs are changing so rapidly. However, sometimes our framework for delivering and procuring are not up to date. They don't allow innovation. They're rigid. They are not based on alliancing with technologies between the owners, the consultants, the management consultants, and the contractors. And what happens is we are always slow in implementing those things. So I believe an integrated resource management plan, it does only sets the policies that we want zero waste from our desalination plants where nothing goes to waste, or we have to maximize the reuse of the water, recycled water, but also sets a performance-based contract. So if you've got a maintenance contract, it's not about providing equipment and plants and people, and we pay for them. It's about minimizing the number of leakage and increasing efficiency. Alliancing program, alliancing contracts early on to develop innovation and bring it. It's not about a lump sum contract that you want you to build a pumping station. It's about, let's sit together, have an initial phase in an alliancing where all the parties sit together with no pressure on the contracts. Yes, we work together, we have an outcome, but it's a form where innovation can flourish and we can implement changing technologies as it changes day by day. And this is very important because I think if we don't do this holistic approach that allows innovation and new forms of financing and new forms of contractual relationships between the different parties, we'll never be able to be ahead of the curve of demand and change and global change. So I'll keep it at that. I think it's something that's very dear to my heart.
Thank you very much, Haris. And I would imagine all these new ISTP studies building come with some of these performance contracts.
Yeah.
And I think the TCO example you showed was a good testament. Dr. Rashid, Your Excellency Rashid, going now to you, as you are the client of all these gentlemen. How do you envision building on the Siwa brand for the future, right? You talked to us about the 7 strategies that you started implementing 6 years ago, and I guess they're bearing their fruits. Now, if you put yourself the hat, okay, what will we do for the next 10 years? What would be like the 2 or 3 things that you like to see Siwa pioneering or being known for?
I would say here that my basic belief, knowledge is power if applied and shared. And I would love to share the success stories happening here in Siwa with the rest of the world. And in reality, we had received a couple of good delegations before the pandemic from Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain, from the region, and even from abroad, from Egypt and from Sudan and other countries. So alhamdulillah, I'm very proud that Siwa has become a destination. And the way how being a leader, positioning Siwa as a continuous innovative learning organization. So I really wanted to leave a legacy behind called the continuous innovative learning organization. And I'm a very realistic person. Yes, we do have 25 years plan, but I always believe that, we human are still short-sighted for our plans. We plan for long, but we keep changing. So being a realistic, if you allow me, please, just to show you this. This is shows my strategy for the coming 5 years. And I put all my secrets here. So there's no secret about we believe in working in dark. We believe in partnership. And one of the beauty of this vision called the 2025 vision, and it sits on 8 pillars. 8 pillars, we call them the 8 P's. So just it's easy for people to remember them. So one is about the people. The second is the performance. I'm reading here for you, I'm just looking at the book, the planet, the projects, what type of positioning, how we position ourselves, the partners we are working with, prosperity, beyond profitability. And the last thing comes the profit. I don't want this organization to be profit-driven and overcharging the community. I'm against, honestly speaking, overcharging the community. People had enough. We should looking for a clean, green, tax-free environment to support what's happening at the global level. The pandemic has created, as I said at the beginning of my speech, so much hustle, and it's still creating. So we have to respond, not to react to this pandemic. And responding means accepting the reality. The reality that we are meeting virtually now. If there was no pandemic, we'll be sitting next to each other. having a cup of tea, coffee, or a drink, whatever. So the idea here is to accept the reality that we are not going back to to yesterday's program. Tomorrow's looking totally different. We have to accept this reality. Then we can think backward instead of keep saying, we're looking forward thinker. And if you allow me for just 30 seconds here, if you're planning to travel to somewhere, even if you go to, let's say you're planning to go to Ras Al Khaimah for a day or two because of this 5 days program or 4 days off, then you start to thinking backward. You make sure that you have the hotel reservation, you have the car available, you have the luggage is ready with the right, materials, your clothes and everything. So the thinking process is different. So you start to think from bringing the future to the present time. And this is what we are failing here. Most of the countries, most of the companies, most of the big players also, they're thinking the same old way of thinking. So we need to, as I said, recalibration. I am a petroleum engineer, by the way, and I did work more than 12 years of my life on oil refineries, right? So when we had a problem in a pipeline or the production line, you say, what? Let's go and recalibrate. Means that, and what we need now is recalibrate our thinking process. We need to really think differently, and it is better together. No one in the whole world is living in isolation now, whether you're living in a very advanced economy or you're living in the poorest country in the world. The global warming is coming and hitting you. The same thing, the flood is coming and hitting you. We had the flood in Sudan up to now, a couple of months back, but the people are still counting the death up to this moment. Still people, they don't know, they lost everything, were washed out, isn't it? So we're living in a very crossroads here. We really need to accept the reality, lead by our hearts, enough by minds, enough by seeing all those graphs and what's the future, what is the 100 years from now, what's gonna be. Let's live the reality. Don't tell me 100 years now, everybody will be living in a peaceful mind and a peaceful cities, affordable. I need to live in peace for tomorrow morning. I need to live in a peace this moment. I need to have a clean cup of water tomorrow morning. Don't tell me after 5 years you have a very nice strategic plan, nobody will pay the prices. No, don't tell me this. I need an immediate. People are looking for solutions. And one of the things we need to bring back to the system is the SMEs. We need to, because they are the source of the innovation, the small, medium-sized businesses. Don't forget, they are the source of any innovation. We need to bring them back. There was enough focus on the big boys, big players. I think that enough is now. We need to rethink, and thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Rashid. I think there's also need for greater international collaboration. I think we just recently saw G20 acknowledging water as a major issue, and I think also things will come from there. Now, in your answer, you touched a bit about the costs, right? It's time to get things done, but also not overburdening consumers. So in a sector where tariffs barely pay the costs of the industry, like sometimes 30%, 40%, especially where we have all these costs for energy. I'd like to ask Ahmed, how do you see the impact on businesses and consumers of implementing all these technologies we've been talking about? We've been talking about more advanced desalination, more reuse and treatment, more smart water tools. So what do you think is kind of the end game for consumers, and in this case also for governments, because at the end they pay the gap?
Look, I think it's a very valid point that we get every time we tackle the innovation, the new technologies, the digitization in general, our EcoStruxure platform. I think it's a legitimate question that sometimes we get from our customers, our stakeholders getting overwhelmed by thinking wrongly that digitization, deploying innovation has a lot of cost burdens. And sometimes people get overwhelmed saying, yeah, but this means that I have to demolish and I have to reconstruct the process and the assets and the water treatment plant, for example. And this is totally wrong. Digitization and innovation doesn't mean that you throw away what you have in hand and you start something from scratch. It's not the case. I think the right thing that we should instill and focus on, that you can still deploy new technologies, new digitization while starting with what you have in hand. Just connect the connectable, connect the assets, get the data, analyze the data, and make the right decisions based on this data. Digitization and innovation is not always bringing additional burden. And I think there is one final point that I want to focus on. I think we need a little bit of a change in the mindset, from the price, the sticker price, the spot price that we pay at the moment to a kind of total cost of ownership. You know, we shouldn't neglect what we paid in the past, what we're paying in the present, and what we'll pay in the future, which is like the total cost of ownership of this asset or this machine or this switch gear or whatsoever. And I think we need to introduce as well words like benefits and values. If we consider values of like reducing losses and leakages, as Dr. Rashid was mentioning, it's about saving energy, remote management, safety of our people, and many other benefits and values that innovation and digitization can bring to the place. I think this will make the equation less severe to be understood, and of course it will embark us on a kind of rewarding investment. So my point, just like put it in brief, don't get afraid from innovation, don't get afraid from digitizing the thing, don't get overwhelmed by these kind of big words like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, predictive analytics. Sometimes people get overwhelmed about this. Let's make it simple. It's all about optimizing the process. It's all about making the operation more efficient. And it's all about getting some benefits and doing like savings. This is about that. And of course, it will be like a kind of paying back investment. That's my point.
Thank you, Ahmed. I think with that, I would like to wrap our session for today. So we talked about water challenges driven by urbanization, the need for behavioral changes, demand growing twice as much as population. So there's a clear need to do so. I think in terms of what is happening today to take back control, a bit on the positive side, we also see the GCC countries taking quite a lot of positive actions, like Fadi mentioned, driving recycling, more desalination, smart water being deployed in Sharjah, Dubai, Saudi, Bahrain, all across. And then I think going forward, we talked about what can be done next. And I think here Dr. Rashid gave quite some good illustrations, but smarter desalination, more use of renewables, increasing reuse, so that we kind of leverage all this precious resource we have, and also not to be afraid in investing in technologies at the end of the day reduce the total cost of ownership, right? So it's not about how much you spend today, it's more about how much are you going to save in the long term. Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing some of their ideas about the industry and how they see it. Thank you to Forbes Middle East for organizing this panel today, and to Schneider Electric for supporting. Appreciate everyone's time. So a big thank you to all our viewers for joining us this afternoon. Great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure seeing you all.
Thank you so much.